Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Green. We're doing the Bible study. This is going to be the 1 Samuel introduction. If you'd like me to come speak at your church, or if you have any questions, you can email me at godsohman@gmail.com, or you could just comment below. So, God has a system of government, how He wants things to be done. And we're going to kind of start talking about that in the study of 1 Samuel. So there's really only two ways that you can look at the world. You can use creation or you can use evolution. And creation basically says that God created it all. He owns it. He decides what's right and wrong. And He tells us how He wants it to be done. You follow God's rules. That's how it works. Evolution is basically an idea that we all came from nothing. So if the evolution story is true, there's really no such thing as right and wrong or law, and the strongest survives. So everything basically started right over here in the creation, about 6,000 years ago. And then we have the flood of Noah. Abraham was born, and he was chosen to basically birth the Israelites or the Jews. Then you have Moses, who was chosen to speak for the Jews and for the Egyptians. And then we have King David. Now, King David's going to be talking about in 2 Samuel. And then we have today, which is over here, this little yellow strip. So if you look here from Abraham through Daniel, it's a very short period of time. You can see Abraham was born, the Hebrews got enslaved by the Egypt, Moses came around, freed the people from Egypt, then we had Judges, King David was born, and then we have the books of the Kings. You can see here, this is David. We're going to be talking about him in 2 Samuel, but we're going to kind of start 1 Samuel to figure out exactly what happened and how he became king. So if you look at the books here, we have 1 Samuel, and King Saul is going to be named to be king. David's going to slay Goliath, and then shortly after that, 1 Samuel is going to end. 2 Samuel is going to pick up. And we're going to learn about King David, Jerusalem being a capital, the horrible thing of David and Bathsheba, and King Solomon gets born right there at the end of 2 Samuel. And if you do the 1 Chronicles and 2 Chronicles, which talks about the kings, 1 Chronicles starts with King Saul and goes all the way through until they got enslaved into captivity. First Samuel is what we're going to be talking about today. And then at the end of it, they're going to basically have King David become king. I want to really quickly talk about the plover birds, because I want to show you how silly evolution is. There's multiple different types of plover birds. So there's actually 3 dozen species. This is a plover of any numerous species. This is a plum-breasted bird of the shore family. And there are about 3 dozen species of plovers. And they're really small birds. So they have long wings, kind of long legs, short necks, and small bills. It says all 36 species of plovers must have had a common ancestor. It was probably a plover bird. This golden Pacific plover is really interesting. They actually look just like the moss that they grow on when they're babies, so they blend in really well. You can see how cute these little birds are. And something interesting about these plover birds is they have this thing called the flight of the golden plover. These plover birds actually are born in Alaska. Then they take a trip from Alaska to Hawaii. It says the oldest plover is recorded to be about 21 years old. It was 4 months old when it was recaptured and released during Banyan operations. So what happens is plover birds, they start up in Alaska, and they travel 2,000 miles of open ocean with no place to rest or to eat. And what's really interesting about these guys is 2 weeks after the parents will fly away, and then 2 weeks later, the chicks take off and they start flying. The chicks are born in Alaska. They've never been to Hawaii before. So how do they know how to get from Alaska to Hawaii with no open waters, no landmarks? It's just open seas, and find their way to Hawaii. It says here the breeding habitat of the golden plover is an Arctic tundra from northeastern and Siberia to western Alaska. It nests its ground on an open, dry area. The research reveals that the birds make a 4,800 kilometer nonstop flight between Alaska and Hawaii, and they usually get there within 3 or 4 days. Now, we believe God should get the glory for his amazing creation, and not some stupid, imaginary, never observed religion of evolution. This is the American golden plover who goes from the northern part of Canada all the way down into South America. Isaiah 42 says, I am the Lord, that is my name, and my glory I not give to another, neither my praise nor graven images. Acts 12 says, and immediately the angel of the Lord smote him, because he gave not God the glory, and he was eaten out of worms, he gave up the ghost. All throughout the Bible it talks about giving God the glory. Psalms 29 says, give unto the Lord the glory due to his name, worship the Lord with the beauty of his holiness. 1 Corinthians 10 says, moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant, how all the fathers were under the cloud and passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and the sea, and did not eat the same spiritual meat. And did not all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank that spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock was Christ. But with many of them God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown for the wilderness. And now these things are for our examples, to the intent that we should not lust after evil things, as they also lusted. And neither ye be idols, which some of them, as is written, the people sat down to eat and drink, and rose up to play. Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell into the day of 20,000. Neither let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted, and were destroyed of serpents. Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured, and were destroyed by the destroyer. Now all these things happen unto them for examples, that they are written for our admonition, among whom the ends of the world are come. Therefore let him think if he standeth in heed, lest he fall. Basically what's saying is people went through this, so that way you can see what they went through, and not make the same mistakes. They have no temptation taken you, such as is common to man, but God is faithful, who will not suffer to be tempted among all ye that is tempted, but with the temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, free from adultery. So the question is, what form of government is the best? Who's going to rule? Well, if nobody's in charge, you have an anarchy. If there's one person in charge, you have a monarchy or a dictatorship. If a couple people are in charge, you have an oligarchy or a junta. And if everybody's in charge, you have a democracy. And democracy kind of breaks down into a direct democracy or a representative democracy. Aristotle had basic forms of government. The correct way for one ruler to serve would be a monarchy. The incorrect way would be a tyranny. The correct way for a few rulers is an aristocracy or a republic, and the wrong way is an oligarchy or a plutocracy. And if many people in charge, the correct way would be a direct democracy, and the deviant way would be anarchy. And these are the different forms of government all over the world, and what they believe and things like that. Benjamin Franklin said, well, a lady asked Benjamin Franklin, well, doctor, do we have a republic or a monarchy? And he says a republic if you can keep it. So basically the difference between a democracy and a republic is a democracy, everybody participates in every decision, the majority rules. There's no protection of individual rights. There's no protection of private property rights. There's no practical, it's not practical for large countries, and it always ends in turbulence and violence. But a republic says the government is selected by elected representatives. They're governed and established by a set of laws. There's a protection of individual rights. There's a protection of property rights, and it's a good idea for large and diverse populations. And it avoids extremes like a mobcracy or a tyranny. And this is right here talking about what it looks like. So if the government's in control, they basically make the laws down to the people. But what they think is supposed to be is the opposite way. Where the people's in control, the people controls the government, and the government controls the federal government. But unfortunately, the opposite seems to be true. The government controls the state government, which controls the people. And it's not exactly how it was originally intended. Thomas Jefferson said, a democracy is nothing more than a mob rule, where 51% of the people take away the rights for the other 49. Our founding fathers didn't want us to have a democracy, so we have a republic where everybody's kind of makes the decisions, and that's how things work. Now, James Madison says, if our nation is ever taken over, it will be taken over from within. Basically, our own people are going to destroy our country. James Madison also said the purpose of the Constitution is to restrict the majority's ability to harm a minority. He also said democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention. They've never been found incurable with personal security, or the rights of property in general have been as short their lives as violent to their deaths. Matthew 6 says, after this manner therefore pray ye, Our Father which is in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done as it is in heaven. You're basically saying that God's our Father, He makes the rules, and if we follow His rules, He's the one that controls our kingdoms. We need to follow what He says, and if we follow what He says, we're going to have a good government, we're going to have good people, and people are going to be happy. Revelation 22 says, and He showed me a pure river of water with life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and the Lamb. And in the midst of the street of it, on either side of the river, there was a tree of life which bears 12 manner of fruits, and yield her fruits every month, and the leaves of the tree which were the healing of the nations. And they shall be much more cursed, but the throne of God and the Lamb shall be in it, and a servant shall serve Him. And they see His face, and His name shall be on their foreheads, and there shall be no light there, no need of candle, no need of light of the sun, for the Lord has given them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Eventually, when we go to heaven, we're going to reign with Christ. We're going to reign in heaven with Him. We're going to basically be part of this huge kingdom. So He wants to tell us what to do here on earth, so we understand what pure government's going to be like, how great it's going to be if we actually follow God's rules. So again, there's creation and evolution. If God created everything, He owns it. He decides what's right and wrong, and He tells us what He wants done. And evolution, again, if it's true, there's no such thing as right and wrong or law. It's just the strongest of survival. So God's systems of government. See, in the Garden of Eden, we were innocent, and we didn't think of doing evil. They knew God, and they walked with Him. And after they disobeyed God, God set up a system of laws. This right here is somebody pretty famous in the Marvel community. He pretty much made all the different Marvels. He's in almost every Marvel community. And he says, don't make me come down there. Well, he's passed away now, and a lot of people in the community really miss him. Genesis 6 says, and it came to pass when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. As the Son of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, it took them as wives which they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is also flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. And there were giants on the earth in those days, and after that, when the sons of God came to the daughters of men, and bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which are men of old, men of renown. So these evil spirits started mating with women, and pretty much completely ruining everything that God set up. And God saw the wickedness of men was great on the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of their heart was only evil continually. And He repented of the Lord that He had made man on earth, and it grieved Him in His heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and creeping things, and the fowls of the air, who repenteth of me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Well, God came down here and He judged His creation. He made a big flood. Everybody died except for the 8 people on the ark and all the animals. It says, and then God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be on every beast of the earth, and on every fowl of the air, and upon every moving thing on the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hands they are delivered. So at the end, God made this earth beautiful again, and Noah and his family had to repopulate the earth, and that's how we all got here. And every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, and even the green herbs I have given you all these things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood, you should not eat. So He's saying anything anything you see that you want to eat, go ahead and eat it. Just don't drink the blood. And surely your blood, your lives will require at the hand of every beast that I required of it, and the hand of man, and the hand of every man's brother I required the life of man. And whosoever sheddeth a man's blood by man shall his blood be shed, for the image of God, for he is man. So God's saying, don't kill each other, because if you do, your blood's going to be required. So then right after the flood, God told Noah to set up a system of government where people who do evil will be punished, like a kind of a court system. And about 350 years later, God called Abram to be the father of the nation of Israel, the model of how God wanted things to run and bring forth the Messiah. So Moses was a man, and Abraham was a man of God. Abraham was a man that was supposed to be good and have 2 sons, and then those 2 sons are going to repopulate all the Jewish people, and see how that goes. So after a long stay in Egypt as a slave, God called Moses to lead them and 2 million people out of the promised land. So Moses basically went to Pharaoh and said, let my people go. And him and about 2 million people left, and they came to the promised land. You can see Moses over here. So Egypt was a very corrupt nation, and they used the Jews as slaves, and God didn't like that so much. So he told Moses to get my people out of there. So Genesis covers about 2,300 years from the creation to the children of Israel being in Egypt. Genesis will cover this period of world history. Right there, you see how much of that? That's a lot. And then Exodus covers the exit from Egypt and the building of the tabernacle. So Exodus covers about this much time. Right there. And of course, Moses led the people across the water. He parted the water. God parted the water, but used Moses' stick to do that. And then Moses was told how to build the tabernacle. It was a portable place for worship God. Exodus also covers the giving of the 10 Commandments and the biggest mistake of the history of the world, which Jews told them we could no problem follow the rules, which they didn't do very well. God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, simple rules to follow, and the Jews didn't follow it very well. It says that Moses came and called the elders of the people and laid before their faces all the words that the Lord commanded him. And the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people to the Lord. So God said, can you follow these 10 Commandments? People said, no problem, we could do it. They should have said, oh Lord, be humble on us. Be humble on us. We're sinners. Please help us. But instead they said, yep, we could do that, no problem. That's the biggest mistake they ever made. And all throughout the Bible it talks about being merciful to God. In Leviticus, God tells the Israelites and the priest how to make offerings in the tabernacle and how to conduct themselves while camping around the holy tent and sanctuary. You can see the tabernacle here. Different coverings on top of the tabernacle. Leviticus also covers the giving of more laws and establishing a system of government for Israel. And Exodus and Deuteronomy basically talks about the 40 years in the wilderness. Numbers covers the numbering of the people about to enter the promised land. So the lessons from Numbers is number 1, the census. You need to know how many people you have as a nation. Number 2, blessing the people. Number 3, elders in the Spirit of God. 4, mission of the spies. 5, challenges to Moses' leadership. Number 6, the talking donkey. And 7, talking about you can't defy God. Deutero means twin, and it's the second counting after the original bunch died off and the second giving of the law. So Moses gives the law the second time to the people because all the elders have passed away, kids grew up, and you didn't know what the law was. And then Joshua took over when Moses died and led them into to conquer the land. That's the book of Joshua. So there's a battle of Jericho in the book of Joshua. And then Judges covers about 336-year period when they didn't have a king, but judges decided to any controversy. So they were basically like a judge today, where they just settle disputes between people. And then you can see right here the judge's timeline, began, how it ended. But if you see here, we have Samuel, who's actually the last judge. Samuel actually anointed Saul, who we're going to be talking about very soon, as king, and was basically like his mentor and told him what he should or shouldn't do. In 1 Corinthians 11 it says, "For we will judge ourselves, but we should not be judged. But when we're judged, we are chastened by the Lord, that we should not be condemned in the world." The last judge was Samuel. And this Bible study will continue with the book of 1 Samuel, and it'll go for a while. You see the judges here. And then Ruth is a short love story of Ruth and Boaz, the grandparents of King David and later Jesus. And then we start on 1 Samuel after that. Ruth was basically a peasant woman. She was in her town. She married a Jew. Her husband passed away, and so we follow the man's mother to the town here. And she basically went behind the threshers, and she got some of the wheat that they left behind. And then 1 Samuel covers a time where God prepared Israel for a king. They begged for a king, and so God gave them a king. Well, guys, that's the video. I appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions, you can send me an email. You can comment below. I'm going to put a couple links on the screen here. The bottom right is going to be the 1 Samuel Bible study. Top right is going to be probably Genesis, and then the bottom left is going to be a video YouTube that you're going to like. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you subscribe so you can see the whole Bible study. Share it with your friends if you think you're going to be interested, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have yourself a great day.